Welcome to the latest edition of Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime with me, Marchant Kenney. Well, I started this show not too long ago with the idea of telling the stories on why we love Southern Miss so much from a lot of familiar faces. We've had Will Hall on here talking about the passionate fans at the Rock. We've had Scott Berry on here talking about that Pete Taylor Park magic. And we've had Jay Ladner talking about this basketball season, bringing back that 80s Eagle fever, baby. So hopefully all these stories are really giving you a good grasp on why we love Southern Miss so much. Well, fan comments have also been a big portion of this show, and normally I'll read these fan comments from a question, but we decided to change things up this week. And the way we did that is that I asked the Southern Miss Nation on Facebook and Twitter to send me your favorite picks with our favorite bird, Seymour. So my wife and the producer of this show, Angela Kenney, got a lot of these picks together. And well, with all that said, let's let the slideshow roll. Thanks so much for sending all those pictures in with our favorite bird, Seymour. And if you want to see him again, or maybe see some new ones that came after we taped this show, head over to our website, anytimemarchant.com, and they'll all be there. Well, you know this show is big with interviews, and today's interview, I am so fired up about. It comes from a college baseball coaching legend. That's right, the one and only Hill Denson. When you talk about college baseball coaching legends, you better talk about former Southern Miss head baseball coach Hill Denson. And he's my guest today. And coach, it is so awesome to have you on. How's everything going, man?
Marchant, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. I've seen some of your first shows and I really enjoy it. And I'm glad to have a chance to be on here with you. And we're doing fine.
Heck yeah. Well, it's so awesome to have you on and looking you up, man. I've never seen so many Hall of Fames. You definitely have the most on anybody on this show so far. 6 Hall of Fames, the American Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame, one of only 8 Mississippians in that, which is a huge honor. You're in the Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame. You're in the Mississippi Semi-Pro Sports Hall of Fame. You're in the Jones Junior College Hall of Fame, the Southern Miss Hall of Fame, the Belhaven Hall of Fame. I mean, Coach, the list goes on. And people that know you, are you in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Because people know you, man. You might be there too.
No, I hadn't made that one yet. So I had a buddy that accused me of driving through a county, and they give me a Hall of Fame when I go through there. So
I love it, man. But what a coaching career, and I can't wait to go through it. And one of the coolest things always, because I knew you from back in the day when I was playing football. You were the coach at Southern Miss baseball. You know, every time I go to Pete Taylor Park nowadays, I see center field, Pete Taylor Park's Hill Denson Field. It's super cool. How does that make you feel, even, man, seeing your name out there?
well, it really is quite an honor, and I think even more so now when I go down to the games, which is very often. And I think it's something I've learned. It's grown on me as an importance. It probably when it happened, it wasn't seeming like that important to do that, but it's great honor, and of course, anything to do with Southern Miss is, as far as I'm concerned, is the best. So.
Heck yeah. And Southern Miss has been in your blood for a long time, man. Played baseball back in the 60s, graduated from there. You were coached by the legendary Pete Taylor, man. So how is it playing baseball and being a student athlete back in the 1960s at Southern Miss?
Well, it's been so long ago, I can hardly remember any of that. I do remember the fire at Cap Sig House at night, in the middle of the night during spring break and things like that. But playing ball was great back then. We didn't have a whole lot of recruited baseball athletes. Had a few. I was one of them that was there, and the coach told me I was planning to go to Delta State. Coach Ferris had already gotten me a glove. I don't know if that was legal back then, but he had gotten me a glove. I was planning on going to Delta State, and Pete called one day and said he would. And of course, I liked the idea of being a little closer home, and I always kind of grew up going to Southern Miss football games and all that sort of thing. So I was very interested in going to Southern Miss when he did call me, and he said, I can't give you scholarships, but he said I could get you a proctorship. I said, what in the world is a proctorship? He said, well, you just live on the dorm floor and take care of things, do paperwork and stuff like that for the dorm floor, and make sure there's nobody shooting each other or whatever. But that was a proctor then. I don't know if they still call them that or not down there, but that was my scholarship, and I think it paid for my tuition back then, which wasn't a whole lot, but it meant a lot to me at the time.
Oh, heck yeah. No, I mean, what a cool dynamic with considering everything you did at Southern Miss, playing for Pete Taylor. And once baseball was over, you semi-pro ball, you managed and played some, and coaching was in your blood. What made you kind of get that coaching vibe?
I don't really know, to tell you the truth. I just ended up in it. I don't know. My degree was in chemistry. I majored in chemistry, and I wasn't sure when I got out what I was going to do. Along toward right before the end of, just before graduation, I remember getting a call from Chamberlain Hunt Military Academy, and they wanted to talk to me about coming over and being a basketball coach. I was a basketball player in junior college and played that string music for the Jones Bobcats over there.
There you go.
Although I didn't make much music, but I played Jones there, played basketball and baseball, and he said, we don't have a baseball team, but we might put one in when you get here. And so, I ended up being that. I ended up taking that job, taught 5 classes of chemistry during the day, and I think 3 classes of chemistry and maybe some general science, but taught 5 classes a day, and then was assistant football coach, head basketball coach, and then we did start a baseball program. When I got there, we found some old uniforms. They had a baseball team at one time, and they had them stored up, and so we found a little place on the campus there to make us a field, and we ended up playing baseball there too at the same time. I was there 3 years at Chamberlain Hunt Military Academy, all boys school.
And talking about your coaching career, I mean, high school was a big part of it early on. In 1971, your career really gets kickstarted at Callaway High School. And by the time in 1981, you all win state championship. And that 81 team is considered one of the best Mississippi baseball teams of all time. I mean, what does that 81 team mean to you? People still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, they do. I have scouts, older scouts that were around at that time, we're still arguing about which is the best high school baseball team they'd ever seen, the Callaway team that year, or that it was one at Pensacola Pensacola, Gulf Breeze, or one of the high schools there in Pensacola. They always compared the two to, and both of us had several guys that went on to pro ball and a lot of college players on it. And they were both really good players. And I was lucky enough in those years at Callaway, the 10 years. This was right after integration, and so it was a turmoil time, but it was a perfect situation to go into and help control the black-white situation, and we just had a great mixture of kids that wanted to play the game, and during that time I was there, every sport at Callaway High School won the state championship at least one time during that 10 years I was there. So, it was a great school. It really compares probably to Madison Central High School now in Jackson, suburban high school that was doing good. So it was a lot of fun and a lot of great members, 10 years at a place. So
yeah, good. Coach, I mean, people think of you, they think baseball, but I keep hearing a little football there. You were the football offensive coordinator at Callaway High School too. Talk about just that little dynamic coaching football and baseball at the same time.
Well, I just thought that's the way it was. I'd been doing that for, the whole time. I was assistant football coach everywhere I went. And actually, one thing I learned real early on was that football is a simple game. It looks complicated, and baseball is a complicated game. It looks simple. So, that's a
good way to put
that old story. And it is absolutely true. There's no question about it. But, I really enjoyed coaching football. I did. I was the offensive coordinator when we won the state championship. I had been under a couple of good guys that put in an offense back then. It was really called a Callaway option is what it was. It was out of an eye running an option out of it. And we had some great players doing it. Had 15 guys sign major college that year. So, we had some great guys doing it. And, it was a lot of fun to go 12-0 and win that thing. So,
heck yeah, man. But yeah, unique dynamic. A lot of coaches did coach football and baseball back then. But during that time frame too, one of the most important things in your life clearly happens. You meet your wife, Judy, man. You all are a legendary couple around Hattiesburg in the Mississippi area. And she was working at WLBT, the NBC station in Jackson. And she's kind of a big celebrity, man, big name. And she hears of this guy, Hill Denson, and she immediate attraction. She thinks he looks like the famous actor George Hamilton, man. So how did y'all meet and how'd that all go down, man? Because y'all are a pretty awesome couple.
It was. I actually picked her out when I was at Chamberlain Hunt off the TV. She was doing the news, and at that time she was doing the 10:25 weather at night, and kind of liked the way she said good night on that thing. And so I happened to have a buddy that was at Mississippi College. I knew she was a Mississippi College student. So had a friend there, a girl that was a friend of mine that was in school there, and she was dating a buddy of mine. So I had her fix me up with Judy. And from there, I just swept her off her feet. So that's all it was to it. So,
oh yeah, the ultimate charmer, Coach Denson. I've known you for a long time. I can see that. No, but what an awesome couple, man. And like I said, she was a celebrity. You're turning into a celebrity with the coaching. But your life, both of you, it takes you to Nashville, and you wind up being the baseball coach at Vanderbilt. But also for the Nashville AAA team, you're the director of game operations there. So this is about a 2-3 year stint. You're doing these jobs, and just talk about that little run right there, kind of moving up in the ranks, getting to the SEC.
Yeah, actually, we moved to Nashville. Judy and I decided we wanted to go to Nashville 2 or 3 years before it happened. If we ever got a chance, either one of us go. If we decided we'd love to move up there and give it a try. At that time, she had been doing Coffee with Judy, which was a morning TV show here in Jackson. And, I was at Callaway. And we decided that we would go if ever got an opportunity. Well, the opportunity came for her to help go up and start the Nashville network, which at that time was the beginning of cable TV. And I moved without a job, by the way. So I got up there looking for a job, and I ended up being the volunteer assistant at Vanderbilt that fall of that year. And I had a buddy that was coaching there. I knew him, and So I volunteered to help, and I worked with there at Vandy. So that's the part that's on my resume. I was a volunteer coach there at Vandy, but I kept looking for a job at the time. It wasn't paying me anything, so I needed a little money coming in, So I ended up catching on with the Nashville Sounds, which was actually the AA affiliate of the Yankees at the time.
AA, forgive me.
AA there in Nashville, and I got hired with them to walk the streets for, it was in the wintertime. So I got started out walking the streets, and they assigned me Music Row. So I was going around to all the music offices, knocking on the door and going in and selling seats and tickets is the way I started doing it. But when the season came around, he promoted me. He didn't mention any money promotion, but he promoted me to the director of in-game operations, or whatever the title was. And I handled things like before game, people doing the national anthem and all that. And I decided that I was going out to the show a good bit. By that time, they were on the air when we got there with the Nashville Now show, which Judy was on with Ralph Emery and all those guys. And I'd go out there a couple of nights a week and sit backstage and all the different stars. I decided that since they had put me in charge of it, I would try to see if I could do it so that we had the national anthem done live every night on some sort of instrument. So I was amazed at the stars that would be on the show. To me, stars, a lot of Grand Ole Opry people and all that kind of stuff. I decided I would just ask them. I started asking them, do you want to do the national anthem out at the ballpark for the Sounds game? And I was completely flabbergasted that every one of them wanted to do it. I didn't ever get turned down. Not a single one did not want to do it. And so they all wanted to do it, and none of them mentioned money. So we weren't going to pay to do it anyhow. But they all wanted to do it. And it still surprised me to this day that all those people would do it. I had the Gatlin brothers and, I don't know. I can't remember John Connolly and, just different ones. And then on the Nashville Now show with Judy that night, I got to know all that band. And we had harmonica players and fiddle players and all that kind of stuff. And I'd ask them, we had the national anthem done on the harmonica, and we had it done on the fiddle. We had it done. But we ended up with doing something I don't think has ever been duplicated since then. And that was, we had a live national anthem every year. Every game, every home game that year, we had a live national anthem of some sort.
What you're doing in Nashville, you're coaching baseball with Vandy. You obviously got the awesome coaching background with Callaway and what have you. But you're also doing this director of game operations with the Nashville Sound. You're learning how to sell. You're learning how to promote. Well, wouldn't you know, a job at Southern Miss opens up for you. It's coming full circle from where you went to school. Pete Taylor's heading out. Here comes Coach Hill Denson. But when you came in, what I'm getting to, stars aligning, Southern Miss needed a lot of selling, needed a lot of promotions, needed a lot of things going. Because back then, Coach, they were giving away tickets for free when you first walked in there, man. There was a lot to do.
Yeah, it was. It was the field had just been built, by the way. And there's a picture of it in the clubhouse that if you walk in on Coach Berry's side of the clubhouse, when you walk in from that entrance, there's a big picture of the field, and I've got it over here somewhere too. But it's the field that was built in the fall. They finished it in the fall with the National Guard building it, and they really were duplicating Petal High School's baseball field is what they were doing. The guy that's kind of in charge of the physical plant, overseeing the job, lived in Petal and kind of had helped build their field. So he did the dugouts like them and everything else, and chain link fence all the way around. But they finished it, and they had fall practice there. There hadn't been a game on it when I got there. See, I didn't go. I went in there December the 1st or December the 3rd, I think it was. So I went in at Christmas, and we played a game 3 weeks later, by the way. So, we didn't have a whole lot of time, no recruiting or anything else. And so, but the field had just been built, but never a game played on it. And it was in pretty rough shape, but it had just been built. And they had fall practice on it, and near as I could tell, that did more damage than anything, because it just did a lot of eating the grass up around the plate and all that kind of stuff was just barren. And, but it was a nice setup down there, right where it is now, same thing. And for those of you who've seen that picture, you know what I'm talking about. But it was something we had to get going. And you know, you mentioned that part about the selling. I was selling season tickets, and it became part of my job to sell outfield fence signs and all the little games that we played in between, get sponsors for them and things like that. So that was where I did get some experience about that, and used an awful lot. I didn't know I was going to be using it in Hattiesburg, but we did a lot of that kind of stuff. And, you know, one of the first thing we did was, was sell outfield fence signs, and built a wall after that first spring. And, had little games like, I remember Shipley's Donuts sponsored, we had a pitcher, pitching, throwing a ball through the hole, and you got a dozen donuts if you went through it, and that sort of, little things like that. So started putting that kind of stuff in, and of course the charging at the gate was a big deal that I had learned up there, and still a lot of people don't know. You don't give tickets away. People won't come to free things very long. They may come, but they won't stay there. May come and stay an inning if you give them a ticket, but they're not going to stay around. And it's just they don't become real fans that way. So free tickets are not the answer, by the way. Just put in one of your screams that you do at the beginning. What do you call them? You call them Marchant rants.
Oh yeah.
We don't give free tickets away, and giving those free tickets don't help. The students need to pay a little something. It may not be but $1 a game, but they pay a little something for a ticket, and the students will come. They'll start filling it up, and they'll stay there. Same time. Football, basketball, anything. So you don't give free tickets. So that was one of the first things I had learned with the National Sounds. And of course, you've heard the story, I'm sure, where I went to Coach Dale. This is true. Went to Coach Dale, who had hired me, Roland Dale, and told him I wanted to charge at those first games. He said, I can't tell you exact language he used, but it was, damn boy, you can't charge out there. Nobody who won't make enough money to pay that ticket tater. I said, well, okay. So I just had one of the players that one of our kind of a red shirt players that we had on our team, or some of our pitchers. I can't remember how we did it, but we had some of the guys assigned during the game to work the gate up there. We didn't even have a perimeter fence around anyhow. They could walk around if they wanted to. And I think we charged $1. Getting maybe $2 getting in. And just something. Is the main thing I'm saying is just charge something, and we did that, and we didn't have to pay a ticket taker as one of our players did.
Yeah. Well, Coach, like I said, in this scene, you're walking in there, the fans, it's not really packed like it is now. The debt of gratitude Southern Miss fans have for what you did for Southern Miss baseball is eternal. You can't pay it off. You're a visionary at that time. You're like the Field of Dreams movie when Kevin Costner's walking through the field. If you build it, they will come. I mean, this is in your head, and you got to build this thing. You even get an idea for night games. So what was your thoughts? Like, let's get some games at night now, because they weren't going on. Everything was during the day.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to draw crowds, you had to play. If you play it during the week, people work. And so, they're not going to be out there at 2:00 in the afternoon during weekdays. And so, we had to have lights, and, that was a battle with the administration, Roland and Bill McClellan. We got to have some lights out here so we can play and, draw crowds and all. And they always just looked at me, rolled their eyes when I'd say draw crowds. And anyhow, that's it took a long time to get there. I went in the fall. I went in this Christmas of '84. And it was 88, I believe, when we got lights, maybe 89. I think it was 88 when we got the lights. And it was, at that time, lights were $250,000. That's a lot of money and back in those days. And never did know how we paid for it, but it always seemed to me that if we needed something, you could get it. But all we could hear was how we didn't have the money. So But so I figured you might well ask. And of course, I got cussed a lot for asking. And I didn't. I got used to that.
Well, knowing you, you're not somebody who takes no for an answer. And so, for years building this program, you're selling, you're promoting, you're doing everything. You're a one-man show, it seems, getting it going. And eventually, man, people start listening. Eventually, the program gets to where it's top 20 in attendance nationally under your tenure, almost top 10 in 95 and 96 in attendance. So everything you did, man, all the hard work, the dedication, endless hours of selling, it paid off big time because the fans started coming, man.
Yeah, in fact, somewhere up here, I've got an article that I think it was 89, what I think, 88 or 89. We were I don't remember, 11th or 12th in the country in attendance at that time. So, Mississippi State, at the time I took over, there were about 8 or 10 baseball programs in the nation that were considered baseball programs, and really good baseball programs. Mississippi State was one of them. And they were about the only one in the SEC that cared whether they won or lost in baseball. And so Mississippi State's always been a good baseball program. And of course, my buddy Ron Polk was up there, and, he and I were friends and so forth. But State's always been one of those programs. There was Mississippi State, there was Arizona State, Miami, Southern Cal. I don't know, I'm thinking who all else, but there were a few more. And Florida was another SEC school that kind of cared about baseball. They weren't as dogmatic about it as they were at Mississippi State, still not. But, they were one of those programs, and Florida State was a good program. We were in the Metro Conference at the time I went. And the Metro Conference, a lot of people don't even know that we were in that. But the Metro Conference was is one of the strongest conferences in the country in a lot of sports. But the problem was we didn't have football. All of our football teams were independent. So therefore, the Southern Miss fans didn't know much about the Metro Conference. And we weren't in the papers like the SEC and the Big 10, Big 12, and all that sort of thing. So Metro Conference was really, really strong. But just for you that don't know who the Metro Conference was, that was us in Florida State, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Louisville, Cincinnati, Memphis, and Tulane. Those were the 8 teams in the Metro Conference. And you mentioned all those programs right now in baseball, basketball, and football, and you will have really great programs, is what it amounts to. And it was
in hindsight, people that know the Metro, they look back and like, dang, if we could have kept that thing together, man, we'd be a power company.
Yeah, there's a good, interesting story about that, but it's too long to tell on here. But that, when that happened, there's reasons it happened. And of course, I hate that we got left out of a lot of things that we did. But at the time, we were one of the pioneers of what was happening. It just got messed up.
Yeah, no, a lot of things frustrating with not moving out of conferences, what have you, and moving on. But, still, let's get back to the baseball thing, Coach. And real quick, you were selling, you're promoting, the fans are starting to come. But with that, you got to start producing on the field. And dang, did you start producing on the field? In 1990, school record 42 wins and the first ever NCAA regional appearance for Southern Miss baseball. How did that feel? Like, finally, man, we're on the map, all this hard work, everything I've been doing.
Well, yeah, it felt really good. It was great. We had gone through 88 and 89. We were pretty good. But we hadn't won. You had to win the conference championship, and that was played at Florida State every year and run by Florida State with their umpires and everything else. But us in South Carolina started pushing for the old Metro to start moving around a little bit, let everybody else. And that was the way we got the stadium. They finally agreed that we would rotate it in the conference, and went to Coach McClellan saying that, 3 years from now, we're going to have the conference tournament and that sort of thing. We needed to build a stadium, and, and then we put together a method of doing it and all that. But that's what happened there. But it was such a dadgum tough league, and winning the tournament's what it took to go to an automatic bid to the regional, and we weren't going to get but one. And the Florida State was already winning 50 games a year, and we were playing the tournament at their place, like I say, with their umpires and everything else. So, you know, you really didn't have hardly have a chance. And one of the things I never had the whole time I was there, we only were getting 48 teams in the region. And that was one of the reasons I retired when I did. I was just so tired of being on the bubble. We'd been on the bubble for 5 of the last 6 years, whatever it was, 4 of the last something. But have to keep the team there and watch the show and see if we're going to be in, because we close. We, you know, got 38 victories and that sort of thing. They were just starting RPI, and they wouldn't tell us anything about the RPI. We didn't know what you would do to make a stronger RPI and all that. So, you know, we'd keep getting left out. We went in 90 to the regional, and then we went in 91 to regional. 92, we kind of fell off. We had a lot of guys hurt and all that, didn't win enough ball games, so I knew we wouldn't be in. But the next 5 years, we were good enough to be in a regional, but it was so tough to get in. And we just knew our conference tournament champ was going to win. Our regular season champ, was going to be in, and our regular season champ might get in. But that was about all we would get at that time. So, and it was only 48 teams. Well, it's 26 conferences or something that had champions, and the at-large bids, you know, out of the SEC and everywhere else. You just almost had no chance of getting in a region. And we were pushing to have 64, and about that time Title IX was coming on, and we couldn't. All the answers from all athletic directors and presidents, they know we can't violate Title IX, and we can't give you something that we don't give the softball team and that sort of thing. So, you know, we just didn't have a chance. Didn't look like we had a chance at all of getting 64 teams, going to 64. Well, we never got over 2 teams in the regionals out of the Metro. And then Conference USA started in 95. I left in 97. But Conference USA was, you know, kind of the diluted Metro conferences. It changed around a little bit. And we still had 48 teams. We never had more than 2 teams get in. And so after I retired, that was one of the main reasons. It was just worn out trying to win and get in that thing. And, you know, we go through all that every year, and then you know, you got to try to win 40 games, you know, or try to be around 40, and getting there is tough when they limit it to 56 games. So, you know, we just ended up having a lot of time doing that, and I finally just got tired and worn out, and you know, start to have one of the things that I wanted when I started was to make it where people cared, where we won or lost, and then we're starting to care. We weren't winning, weren't getting in the regionals. We got
Hey, Coach, let's focus on that there for a second, man. I know it's tough here and there getting into some tourneys, but considering where you started in '84 at Southern Miss, I mean, you're giving away tickets to mid-90s, and we're going to regionals and fighting for regionals, and Southern Miss baseball is the thing to do all of a sudden. Let's talk about that journey that you did, which is absolutely incredible. Like I said, it's a field of dreams movie come to life. If you build it, they will come, and they started coming, Coach. And one of those places, if you don't mind me talking about, you had a big vision of just this whole scene with Southern Miss baseball, the right field roost, which has become huge in Southern Miss world. What was your vision with the right field roost and getting that going?
You know, I didn't know I had a vision. I wasn't
It looks like a movie.
Yeah, I didn't know I had a vision, but I was, you know, basically, to be real honest, we kind of following what State had done. We were kind of copying Mississippi State, and all my Bulldog buddies are a little here and that, I guess, but we were copying them, and that they had the left field lounge, and then when we went to Bill McClellan with it and presented it to him, God dang boy, I mean, I can't quite use the same language, but we can't, nobody buy tickets to that thing. And but anyhow, we did that, and we started with 10 places up there. I think it was 10, maybe 12. right in the corner, what is now the corner up there. We had a batting cage built up there in that parking lot where the gravel is now. We had our hitting cage that's down there in right left field was up there on the hill. That's where we put it. And but anyhow, right past it, we did the first 12 spots there. And Coach Mack said, we went to him. He had just come there as AD. And Coach, I didn't even ask Coach Dale about it because I knew he wouldn't agree with it. I'd just done it if we were going to do it. But we were kind of getting ready to do it. And so Bill McClellan came, and he had been around. He was at Clemson all those years, and they had some good baseball programs at Clemson. They weren't anything like Mississippi State, but they had some good baseball programs. So he knew a little about it. But anyhow, I mentioned it to him that we want to do this, and Coach Ben Willoughby went in there with me. Ben was running our Eagle Club, which, by the way, Ben was one of my biggest supporters and helpful in building all this stuff. He helped do a lot of the things we had to do, the undercover work to get people involved with whatever we needed. And anyhow, Ben and I went in to Coach Mack and said, we'd like to put this roost in, and we'd like to do at Mississippi State. I said, no, we're not doing that. First of all, we want everybody to buy that. And he said, how do you want to do it? I said, well, we'd like to charge $100 a spot and that sort of thing. He said, well, he thought of it. He said, $100 a spot. They got to be a member of the Eagle Club. And he's the one Bill McClellan put in the Eagle Club. They got to be a member of the Eagle Club, and they got to buy 4 season tickets. And you got to drive in a pickup, and you got to stay in your pickup. You can bring your party supplies in, but you got to stay in your pickup, and that's the way the roost is designed. And it could only be pickups, and then it changed a little to trucks and that sort of thing. I got another story about that, but anyhow, Bill, he said, all right, we'll try it. It ain't gonna work, but we'll try it. And this was Thursday before we opened the season on Friday, and Ben was going to do it. He was going to do it during the game. Anybody that was at the game, the few people, he was just going to hit them up, tell them what we were thinking about doing, see if anybody would be interested. Well, as soon as the game was over, Ben came to me and said, "Hill, all 10 of them sold, or all 12 of them sold, whatever it was." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "They gobbled them up." So he said, bad part of it is about most of them, or half of them or so, are Mississippi State people. I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, they know about baseball, and they know what we're trying to do." And they bought them. And some of those original owners are still out there, and are still, their names are still on them, and they bought the original seats. And they did. They knew what was happening. Most of our fans had never been past a football game or a basketball game, maybe, but not a baseball game. So explaining to them what we were doing was kind of out of the wayside. But anyhow, that took off. Fun part about it was next year, about a month before the season, Bill McClellan came up to him and said, "Hey, here, what do you think we could move those cages and maybe sell a few more of these places up here?" I said, "Yeah, we got a good place to move them to." And of course, he had it moved for it. Back then, I didn't have to move it. He moved it. They moved it. But anyhow, that was fun. But the roost has been something, it's gotten wilder and wilder, and people just love it. And I've been told several times it's the hottest ticket on campus. When that comes up for sale, it's in people's wills.
Coach, LSU being in the regional on site last year, the place to be was the right field roost. I mean, I had to finagle my way into getting back there, man. I thought people know me, man. I was a nobody. I somehow got a ticket, me and my wife. But just backtracking to your career, Coach, what an incredible career at Southern Miss. You take it from, like I said, fans, getting in for free, more or less, to where, it is one of the hottest tickets in town. And, you were 2-time conference coach of the year in a seriously tough conference run right there. Yeah, I mean, you coached 8 All-Americans. You coached 35 pro baseball players. I mean, in that stadium, Hill Denson Field, Pete Taylor Park, you're just immortalized out there, Coach. So just recapping Southern Miss, and before we get into kind of Belhaven stuff, what are your thoughts, just kind of recapping Southern Miss?
Well, some of the greatest times of my life, and in our whole family's life. My girls, both Jill and Molly, grew up from elementary school through high school there and college while we were there. And so it's a great time of our life. And it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, a lot of ups and downs, and hope most of the baseball fans. Now, I told you earlier a while ago, I said one of my main goals when I started in 1984 was to make it where anybody knew we were playing and they cared whether we won or lost, and that really wasn't happening at the time. And so it had gotten to that point where, those last 3 years or so I was there, they were getting on me pretty good because we weren't getting in the regionals, and that's so. And I'm thinking, no, there's no place to get in unless you win the tournament every year. And that's a hard thing to do too. You got to be lucky, got to be hot, just like the World Series. When you get up there, you get hot and get lucky, and you win the World Series. So, so everybody's about the same every year, and that's that way now. And of course, Corky and Scott coming along with me, and Corky was with me 2 different times. I had Corky my first year there, or after the first year. I was doing the recruiting myself, didn't have any assistants at the time. And Corky had a player over in Columbia that I wanted, and we wanted. And Corky wanted him to come to Southern because he had played. And that's where I got to know Corky. I'd always heard his name, but he was playing during the time I was gone. I was out of there in Callaway and so forth. So I wasn't close with Corky at the time. So I had him go recruiting one day with me, and we went and looked. And I remember now we went to see Fred Cooley. He was probably one of the best hitters we've ever had there. And we went to see him play, and Corky wanted to ride with me because I was trying to sign his pitcher, and he wanted to get to know me a little. And told me that first day, he said, I played here and would love to be there coaching sometime. Well, anyhow, long story short, we worked it out where he could come be our assistant, and his wife was working as a nurse. And Lynn Shaddles, who was Herschel Shaddles' son, was able to help him with a place to live and an apartment to let him live in and that sort of thing. So he became our assistant coach that first year. After the first year, that first half year, he was assistant a couple of years before they called me back from looking for a coach from Meridian, and he ended up, of course, going up there, and we got to know Scott. Long story short, but anyhow, all of us were really close.
Heck yeah, they speak about you in the highest regards, especially Coach Scott Berry. He said one of the neatest things. He said, you talk about coaching baseball, the top names. You talk about Ron Polk. You talk about Skip Bertman in the same sentence as Hill Denson. That's the kind of impact you made around these parts, Coach. So yeah, I guess it's one of the coolest things I've heard, and it's true because like I said, you tell the story from '84 to '97. Everything you did, you made Southern Miss baseball a thing. But when it ended, man, you still got coaching baseball in your vibes, your blood, man. You're just one of those guys. So you take over Belhaven in 2001. How was that taking that program over back in 2001?
Well, let me back up just a little bit. I retired after the '97 season. A lot of people, for some reason, thought I got fired, but I didn't. I decided to retire. But what I wanted to stay on and work part-time. I could start drawing my state retirement at the time. And I wasn't planning on coaching again. I really thought I wanted to go administration. I had several people around Tanvicksburg and all telling me I was going to be the next athletic director. And they'd been telling me that for a while. And I had talked with Bill about it and that sort of thing, McClellan. And so when we had an opening for an assistant there, that's when I decided to retire. And all. Long story short, that after about a week of working in a little administrative work, I decided, what are you thinking about here? We're not being an athletic director. But I went in, I started doing a little commercial real estate and all that with Steve Floyd there in town, and rest his soul. And, I wasn't planning on leaving and going back into coaching, but about, say 2 or 3 months, maybe 6 months before Belhaven, I got a call from the University of Memphis, and they said, Bobby Kilpatrick, who was the old baseball coach, was assistant AD, and he was calling in and said, like for you to be one of our top 3 interviews for the job at Memphis State at the time. at Memphis State. And he said, I want you to come up here next week. We'll fly you up, or you can come up or whatever. We'll bring you up here next week and do an interview. So, I said, well, I kind of got excited about that because I was drawing state retirement, see, and that meant that if I went back to a state university, I'd have to give up that retirement, but I could go out of state or I can go to a private school and still draw my state retirement, which I've been doing since 97. And so anyhow, he says, we want you, long story short, they didn't hire me at Memphis. Got me all excited about getting back in. Didn't hire me. I came to find out later that they knew who they were hiring to begin with. It was a big league first base coach and never coached in college, which lasted another 2 years, I think, before he left, but got left. And, but anyhow, they that was just kind of a show for them. But it kind of got me thinking, get back in coaching. A couple months later, get a call from Belhaven and end up going up there. And that fit pretty good at the time. Judy was doing a little work with New York Life, and that was her main office was in Jackson. She didn't want to go to Memphis anyhow because she didn't want to be that far from her main office in Jackson. So that worked out good to go back to Jackson. We had lived there. Our girls were born there, both of them really in Jackson before we moved to Hattiesburg. Nashville and then Hattiesburg. But anyhow, we things went along there pretty good, and we ended up going to Belhaven. I thought I'd just go up there a year or two and kind of get it out of my system, but I got retirement coming from Belhaven.
So, I mean, you were just trying to get out your system. I mean, you had one hell of a run. I mean, when you look at what you did, you had over 600 wins there. You were Conference Coach of the Year 3 times. Y'all won 6 conference championships. And in 2010, you go to the NAIA World Series. So this just kind of like, yeah, I'll get it out of my blood. No, man, you really pumped up that program, man.
Yeah, it was fun there. I enjoyed it. And of course, it was, wasn't the same as Division I, but it was good baseball. And it became really good baseball in the league with Cary and a lot of good school, University of Mobile and all, which are good baseball programs. It was a very good baseball program. A lot of fun. Had a lot of fun there too. And enjoyed it and got a good retirement from Belhaven too.
Heck yeah, man. It's all about a good retirement. And every time I've seen you at Pete Taylor Park, looks like you're living the life, Coach. And for sure. But I do want to talk to you about a couple other topics, after just talking about one unbelievable baseball coaching career. Some things pop up at Southern Miss here all the time, and it's so unique. Southern Miss baseball has only had 4 baseball coaches in their history. Pete Taylor, you, Corky Palmer, and Scott Berry. Why do you think it is as such, man? Only 4 coaches, man. When some programs are turning over left and right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know why that is. But it's kind of, all those coaches, all 4 of those are got Southern Miss blood in them. Scott Berry didn't really go to school there, but Scott he cut his teeth in coaching it with Corky at Meridian and the Deer Club with us, and we were all close friends. And he became a Southern Miss person, so knows how Southern Miss is a different place. Yeah. You don't go out and hire a football coach from California or Texas that's never been here and expect them to do much in here other than maybe try to win a bunch of games, get a week schedule, win some games and get out of here. And back when they were, done some crazy things on campus. We've done some crazy things. And of course, to me, the worst thing that's ever been done there is the firing of Jeff Bauer. I've never, and you got to look at that. I told Ole Miss fans last year that were complaining at the beginning of the year, and they are this year now because Ole Miss was playing so bad at the beginning of the year last year. I said it on the radio 2 or 3 times. The dumbest thing's ever been done in this state's firing Jeff Bauer. And the second dumbest thing would be to fire Mike Bianco at Ole Miss because he's a great baseball coach and brought y'all so far. And lo and behold, they get hot and win the national championship. They were one of the worst teams in the nation this time last year. So that's the way baseball is. It's up and down. And one of the things that drives you crazy in the game really is you don't I'm sure every baseball coach in this country, almost every baseball coach, would tell you that they hadn't got the game figured out yet either. And you got it. You're so high sometimes, and you're so low. And you talk to the players about just playing along this even kill. If you get beat today, you shake it off and you win tomorrow, and you just keep going because you're not going to go undefeated. You can forget that.
Coach.
And, it's awful, you hit them
No,
hard.
It's interesting. Last season was so big for Southern Miss baseball that we're in game 26 of this season, and some fans are acting like the sky's falling. So I felt like the need to tweet out. I said, at this point last season we were 18-8. We're 16-10 right now. We're 2 games off the pace. I swear the sky's not falling. It's baseball, man. It's great. You tell the players that you gotta go with the flow, man. Just stay the course.
That's exactly right. And when you get in a tournament, you got to be hot and lucky.
Yep.
You got to have things go away. And I can give you an example of the Super Regional in Hattiesburg last year. We were behind 3-0. We hit a bases loaded home run that far foul that would have made it 4-3.
I remember that. Yep.
Things would have completely been different. They ended up with the ball game 10-0. Everybody, you can't hit. We got beat. We got killed. And that sort of thing. But baseball is such a momentum game that difference right there is the difference in the Super Regional and maybe the national championship.
It's just like that.
Definitely hot. They were hot, but they got to be lucky, and that was luck. If you saw that replay over and over and over, and you saw their pitcher who was having a great series, really doing a good job for Ole Miss, but he was throwing, and when he threw that pitch and Lynch hit it, he did that. He knew it was gone, and it wasn't any question, but it was hooking.
That
was it. So, that makes a difference in what happened, probably in what happened with the national championship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were hot at the right time too, and that happens. But Coach, for people watching this that may not know, man, tell me about your current life. What's going on with you and Judy and family life, man? What's going on?
Well, I'm double retired. I don't do anything, but I stay busy all the time. To give you a good example, got up the other day, got dressed for church, drove down to the church and got there, and lo and behold, there's nobody there but the custodian said, "Coach, it's Tuesday." I'm not, we don't have church on Tuesday.
You were feeling the spirit though, Coach.
Yeah. I can't keep up with the days, but we're doing great, having a great time doing nothing, play a little music. We do play music, and a lot of people don't know I'm an old ex-drummer from back years ago. I don't consider myself a drummer, but love to play the drum, love music, always have. Of course, Judy's a music person and sings and plays. But anyhow, it's great. The retirement life is fun. Again, not doing much that I know I can say I did, but having a good time.
Yeah, one cool thing, your name is still so huge in the Southern Miss world, in the college baseball world. Coach, any message for the Southern Miss Nation, man? Some words from the great Hill Denson for the fan base, and just that you might want to get out there.
Just hang in there and keep loving USM and quit trying to run coaches off when you don't win a game, because you're going to lose some games, and you got to keep firing. And I tell you, I'll say this right off: there's not a person in the ballpark or the stadium or the gymnasium, not a person in the ballpark feels worse about a loss than the coach. And all you fans that think you know it all, most all of the answers you have are after it happened. Should I have bunted, or should I have kicked the field goal? Or, after it happens, you see, well, I'd have done it the other way, and most everybody's like that. So, understand that the coaches, when we get good coaches there on campus, don't run them off. Keep them there, and people that want to be there and win ball games with you. Right now, things are looking good to me. I'm so glad to see it back where it's supposed to, or headed back where it's supposed to be. I hate that we went through that period of down with our football and really basketball program during the last 8 to 10 years or whatever, during the time that all this conference stuff was around, because I thought we ought to be in that Power 5 stuff. We ought to be getting that money that those guys are getting. And we got left out of there. But when we got people that want to do things and love it and are good coaches, they're a good coach, you quit trying to run them off. And that's natural with all fans all over the country. I understand that. And I hear the fans that stayed in Ole Miss complaining now because they're not there, and even maybe one or two from Southern Miss because we're not doing what we did last year. Well, got a different bunch of players and different things happen. Injuries and all that kind of stuff. So, but nobody cares more about it than the coach, I guarantee you.
Oh, you're right about that. And then the big three sports are starting to win again. And I keep saying it's almost like a little 80s Eagle fever kicking back in.
Oh, absolutely. I love what they're doing down there. Went out and saw the basketball team play this time, and I tell you, that was a fun team.
And like I said, I had a blast catching up with you, Coach. I mean, to kind of sandwich this interview, man, 6 Hall of Fames. Your accolades are through the roof, and I swear, people that know you, I know you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame somewhere, Coach. There's a 7th one, I think, some Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But like I said, Coach and legend, man, it's just such an honor to have you on, Coach, and it's an honor to know you, call you my friend, and I appreciate you so much for being on.
Thank you, Marchant. And I love, I can remember back in the days walking down the hall and see around you football players and all, and I would always, when I could, I probably did it a time or two, do you just get aim with you and then pop you with a forearm.
Oh, you had a comedy routine to you, Coach. Kept me on my edge.
Big defensive tackles, you guys, all you big tough guys, I pop you on back.
Oh, pound for pound, nobody's gonna mess with you, Coach. I promise that, sir. But man, what an honor catching up with you. And I guess always go ahead and end these interviews is Southern Miss to the top. Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Wow, I enjoyed catching up with college baseball coach and legend Hill Denson. Well, next up, it's story time, and it's coming from one of the best college baseball pitchers in America. That's right, it's our ace, the one and only Tanner Hall.
What's going on? Tanner Hall here. Some of my favorite Golden Eagle experiences definitely come from, my freshman year playing in the Oxford Regional. I'll never forget that. I got to pitch. I went 5 innings in one of those elimination games against Ole Miss, and just being a freshman, being able to go out there and compete is something that I'll never forget, just getting that opportunity. Also, last year, really big memory that I'll never forget is being switched to Friday night on my birthday, March 18th, and that was the first week in the conference, and I'll never forget just turning 20 years old and getting to go out and pitch on Friday night, which is something I've dreamed of my whole life. Also, going on to last year was the regional and the super regional. That's something I don't think any of us will ever forget. Just the atmosphere, the fans, the amount of energy that was being produced during those 2 weekends was really fun and exciting. Not to mention being able to play some really good teams here and bouncing back off of 2 days of rest during the regional. That's something that I felt like I had to face, and I felt like it made me stronger, and it's something that I'll never forget as a Golden Eagle.
Well, thanks so much for sending that story into the show, Tanner Hall. Well, that's it for another edition of Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we're trying to get the Southern Miss name out there, and until we get 1,000+ subscribers over there, YouTube limits us to what we can do. So I'm asking you to do something absolutely free to do. Take a second out of your day, and that's to head to YouTube, our Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime page there, and click that subscribe button. Well, until next time, as always, it's Southern Miss to the top.